Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back. It is Nick with Bonneville Motorworks, and this week we are in for another classic car review with none other than the 1953 Buick Super. This car is absolutely incredible. Want to give a quick shout out and big thanks to Cannon Classic Cars in Salt Lake City for letting us use it for the video. Really want to see how this holds up compared to all of the other cars that we've been able to review so far. Just a quick reminder, the criteria that we're going to be doing this on is going to be first, the design. So the aesthetics of the car. Second, we'll be going into the history of the vehicle. Third, we'll be getting into the accessibility and how rare this car is. Fourth, we'll be getting into the powertrain and what's under the hood, making it go. And lastly, how comfortable is the car? Rating's going to be a total out of 50. Each criteria is out of 10. Let's get into it. The 1953 Buick Super. Kicking us off, as always, is going to be the design. This car is absolutely incredible looking. One of the things that you really call to very quickly is just the long, sloping, and sweeping lines of this car. Over the fenders, the long extensions across the back, the kind of post-war kind of feel that really creeps in on the design of these older cars. Really reminiscent of the space age that was launching at that time. Lots of chrome work and lots of trim work, lots of very, very unique badges and pieces that really brought this car to life. So I want to take a few minutes and just highlight some of the key ones that make the Buick stand out in general. First of which is going to be these chrome ports that you see along the front fender. Now, most of the Buicks from this time actually had anywhere from 3 to 4 of these chrome inlets that you would see. And as always, you've got the sweeping chrome line running down the line and accenting across the back fender. You also have a really nice chrome trim that runs along the top, separating the top end of the cabin from the main frame of the car. And one of the things that was also really fun about cars in this time is you would get a lot of two-tone vehicles, similar to this one here, where you would have a different color for your top than you would for your actual base for the paint for the car. And the Buick in 1953 had 19 different colors that you could choose it in and mix and match. So the Matador red and the jet black that you have here is a pretty unique combination, and you would have been able to find any different number of those across those 19 colors and 5 different trim packages on the inside. Next thing that we want to come to is going to be these white walled wheels and the wire well covers that you have on these tires. Now these came from the factory with the big white walls, and it really was an iconic piece of the time. All of the older cars, 50s, 60s, I had a 1962 Galaxy, had the same white walls on them. Sadly, they've moved away from those in some of the newer ones. Originally, though, an interesting fact is that the white is actually the original color of the rubber. White tires were used in the oldest of the cars back in the early 1900s, and they didn't start using carbon black or other rubber treatments that actually had black in them to be able to harden up those tires and give them better stickiness until later. So that is actually a reminiscent of the original colors of old tires that you would have seen. Moving across the front, Now you get to some of the really key iconic components of this 53 Buick. So first off, you'll notice these kind of sad dog eyes that you have for the headlights. The long expansion underneath it, highlighting the turn signals underneath, really gives it kind of that drawn down face. And the grille is so built out with all of the different insignia. You have the Buick emblem here across the front. You have the Super insignia here in the center. The Buick written out in these block typography. And then you have the V across the top here and that hood ornament. It is absolutely beautiful. So the car, as far as the design is concerned, I am a huge fan of. And we're going to close on the tail end, where you have this picture with the Buick V8 and the Buick Super logo. It is absolutely beautiful. That bulbous back on it, matching the kind of bull nose that you have on the front end, really just ties the whole car together. All in all, this car has some incredible design features going for it. And out of 5 for our exterior design, I'm going to be giving this 53 Buick a 4.4. Now we move to the other side of our aesthetics with the interior. Now, I personally am a sucker for the interiors of these old post-war cars. You get a whole lot of color, a whole lot of depth, and a whole lot of chrome. So when we're looking across the interior here, first thing that I am looking at is just this absolute barrage of chrome. I've got the grille here in the center insert with the speaker behind it, all of the dials all laid out in front of me, big, nice name tags attached to them. I've got this triple spoke, a quad spoke cross wheel with the circular interior that is actually the horn. And I have access to see every single dial that I need to in here. The headliner in this one is incredibly nice. It's got a nylon interior with bench seats across the front and the back. I could fit probably 10 people in this car if I needed to. It is absolutely incredible. But then you also have all of the little tiny features that most people don't pay attention to. You have all of the individual stitching and piping here. You have the Super insignia that's thrown in. You have the window change here on the side that you wouldn't have on any newer vehicles. And everything is just, it feels like it was made to be special. This car is absolutely incredible. All of this being said, the interior of this car, for me, is incredibly special and incredibly plush. I'm going to have to give this on the interior a 4.5 out of 5. So, we've wrapped up the design section here with our 53 Buick, and rounding out the total score out of 10, we have an 8.9, which is absolutely deserving for this timeless car. Now, we're going to take a step into the history of the car. So, interestingly enough, this kind of design and this vehicle, we would consider this to be a post-war car. Now, this was the heyday of America in its prime of having families, getting out into the suburbs, and everyone wanting to have something that they can take along with them. You also had the car salesman who was going to be driving from city to city and running a business out of his car. This was the kind of vehicle that people would be looking to do that in. The initial price on something like this, $2,600, which in 1953 was a decent amount. And this, being a 1953 Buick Super Riviera, was actually the highest end that you could possibly get for this car. Absolutely incredible. And competing with the likes of the Cadillac Eldorado, the Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and also anything in the Oldsmobile lineup. This was what America was really wanting and craving at the time, with production numbers ranging about 90,000 for this particular model in 1953. There were a lot of other opportunities that people had in the same lineup. With Buick, though, the Skylark actually released for the very first time in 1953, getting a nice two-door large convertible that you could be driving in. And there were also other versions and other trim levels that you could also find of the Buick as well, including a special. So as far as the historical factor, this is one of the vehicles that doesn't necessarily have as much emphasis in the movies or the films, but it's one that really is core to the heart of America and what was really being lived at the time by people in the early 1950s. That being said, I think the historical significance on this car in particular is probably going to come in only at about a 3.2 out of 10. Now we come into the Rarity. We noted in the last section with the history that there were about 91,000 of these made, and that accounted for roughly 18.5% of all of the Buicks produced in 1953. Now, in total, out of the 488,000 vehicles that were produced, there are very few that are going to have the same color combination as we had mentioned as well. When you have 19 different colors and ways to play with two tones, generally speaking, nowadays, because there has been so much time and so many of these have gone to the scrapyard over the days, this could potentially be a one of one and you just wouldn't know it because not many of them were kept track of. So while they are rarer, they're not necessarily the most sought after from those years. 53, we also remember, was the first year that the Corvette came out. There's a lot of other cars that were in that same vein that have a little bit more significance and a little bit more collectability than what the 53 Buick has. For that reason, you'll only be able to find them once in a blue moon. When you do, the pricing on them really depends on the care that's been taken of it and what condition it's in. Something like this one here, actually, we'll start on the lower end. If you find a project like this, bring a trailer. The only other one that I was able to find in the last 5 years that sold was a project that was in around the $3,000 to $5,000 range. Now, when you get into some of the higher end ones that have been well maintained like this, you're probably going to be closer to about the $25,000 to $35,000 range. And if you're getting into a concours level, absolutely immaculate and fresh car, you're really going to be looking more in like the $70,000 to $90,000 range. I think the highest one that I was able to find in all of my research sold for $140,000, and it was a totally different package, totally different layout than this. It just happened to be a 53 Buick. So with the Rarity, because it's not necessarily as sought after, and because it may be more difficult to find, but not quite what most people are going to be adding to their collection, we're going to be giving this on its rarity and accessibility factor straight out 5.0 out of 10. Next, we're going to come into what's under the hood, the powertrain. So in the old Buicks here, this actually is really special. This is the very first V8 that Buick ever put into a car. Up to this point, if you had an 8-cylinder car coming from Buick, it was still going to be a straight 8. But the 1953 Buick Super Riviera has a 322 nailhead V8. Very first. This one here is an awesome representation. Needs a little bit of love and cleanup, but this is truly very, very well preserved. It put out about 170 horsepower, which was enough to get this boat from point A to point B. Car weighs about 3,800 pounds, so once you factor in people, you've got 2 tons of steel rolling down the highway. Well enough though, this motor could handle the power, and with it was a Dynaflow automatic 2-speed transmission. I can attest to the fact that you can't even feel it shift. It's a pleasure to drive. Absolutely love this car. As far as the overall power is concerned, for the size of the vehicle, I would say it's a little underpowered, but when you're talking about a early 1950s vehicle, you're really not going to be able to ask for much more than that. So with that all in mind, and with the real changes that came in the early 1950s through the Buick V8. I'm going to be giving this one a score today. I'm going to say a 6.2 out of 10. Last but not least, we come to the comfort of this 53 Buick. Now, in the past, I've been all about the cockpit and how I'm feeling in the seats. This has a very unique feel to it because it has a bench seat versus a bucket seat. So I have so much play and so much room. It's absolutely unreal. The other thing is that I'm not having to dive underneath this large steering wheel. This thing's probably 15, 16 inches across, and I fit with it just perfectly. I've got little hand grips on it. The ability for me to be able to navigate this car and to be able to drive it is absolutely fantastic. It's exactly what you would want it to be. And on the drive over here, you really got a sense of what this car really feels like when you drive it. The suspension is very soft. The transmission is very smooth. When they say that you're driving a boat, that's what it feels like you're driving. This thing literally feels like it could be on a wake and cruising its way through a lake. So while it's not the stiffest and not the tightest, it really does give a pretty unique sensation when you're driving. Because it is such a good creature comfort car, but also because it is soft, kind of balances things out. Personally, where it doesn't have power brakes, doesn't have power steering, you've got to really be able to control it and wrestle it. We already mentioned this thing's almost 2 tons on its own. I'm going to have to say that for the comfort, drivability, and for the overall experience in here, we're going to give the old Super 8 probably a 4.8 out of 10. Thanks for sticking around with us on this 1953 Buick. The final score, after everything has been tallied up, has come in at a 28.1. So while it may not shine as the most incredible car that we have been able to review, it does have some incredible features that really make it unique and could be an awesome addition to anyone's collection. If you want to get a car like this, or even this car in particular, go to canonclassics.com. Their link is in the description below. You can find this and many other cars that we've reviewed on this channel, and many more that we have yet to go over. They do an incredible job taking care of the vehicles there. If you have anything that you're looking for on consignment, or if you're looking to get any of your classics repaired, they are the place to go. As for this 1953 Buick, I've had an incredible time getting to ride around in it and show you what it's all about. If you want to get any merch from Bonneville Motor Works, please feel free to go to BonnevilleMotorWorks.com, get an awesome shirt like this for yourself, and feel free to catch us on the next video. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.